Revisit that today. Okay, perfect.
I'm seeing the alerts.
There we go.
Bow, bow, bow.
I'm good. I'm good. All right. The Dolphins got their man. Wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. has agreed to terms with the Dolphins on a one-year deal, actually signed. He should immediately become the number 3 receiver, but does this mean the Dolphins will get a home playoff game and also win that home playoff game? What's up, Dolphins fans? Thanks for joining us on this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I'm your host, Chris Perkins, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist. That's David Furones, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins writer. We appreciate our viewers tuning in today and invite everyone to send along their thoughts, opinions, and questions on our chat, which has grown into one of the best places to get well thought out and diverse Dolphins opinions. And as always, we remind you, if you missed any part of this show or want to hear something again, the podcast is available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So today we're talking about OBJ and whether that raises expectations for the 2024 Miami Dolphins and whether it signifies, as GM Chris Grier and Coach Mike McDaniel have said, that they're still all in trying to win a Super Bowl this season. We're also going to take a look at whether the Dolphins are setting themselves up to still be competitive after quarterback Tua Tagovailoa gets his big payday, which we expect to happen sometime in the next 12 months, could happen in the next 2 weeks. And as for the fastest growing segment of the show, the Furones bonus, David Furones will tell us, with OBJ's addition, which Dolphins player will have the most star power off the field. And finally, we're going to talk about what we expect to see at this week's rookie mini camp. The Dolphins have given us an ocean of talking points. This show is a submersible vehicle. Let's dive in. All right, Mr. Furones, OBJ, what do you think of OBJ? Is this a major acquisition, and does he change the expectations for the 2024 Dolphins?
Well, yeah, I heard you mention all-in season in the opening. What's an all-in season really? I think the Dolphins already showed that if they were approaching 2024 like an all-in in terms of keeping every expensive piece they can with reckless abandon toward future seasons, it's not that's not how they're operating it. If they were doing that, Christian Wilkins, Robert Hunt would still be on this team, maybe Xavier Howard. What they are trying to do is set themselves up as best they can this season, while hedging their bet a little bit to not put themselves in an impossible situation beyond that. So it doesn't have to be a full rebuild again like in 2019 once you come off the other end of that. But as far as Odell Beckham himself, awesome pickup, giving the Dolphins that number 3 wide receiver they coveted. He does demand some level of attention that Miami didn't have after Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle last season. So now he can open up the field for them, but more so the coverage that Hill and Waddle demand will open things up for him. Hey, while he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since 2019, hasn't been a Pro Bowler since 2016, has come back from multiple knee and ankle injuries, he is still a pass catcher with an elite skill set, with speed, runs great routes, has an arsenal of a route tree at a variety of depths. He's not a bigger receiver to complement Hill and Waddle in that way, but maybe Jonnu Smith can provide that red zone, bigger possession receiver pass catcher once they get down inside the 20s. So it was clear, though, that from Mike McDaniel's comments at owners' meetings when they had the offer on the table, all the negotiations were going down after the visit and so on, that he sees a lot that he can do with OBJ and that he was someone that the Dolphins were targeting. And great deal that they got $3 million base with up to $8.25 million with incentives. That's a great deal for OBJ. So you're not touching that $15 million that he ended up making with Baltimore last year. And it's clear that he wanted to come because he probably could have gotten a little bit more, not too much elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah, and look, let's start at the top with this great deal by Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, and Brandon Shore, who handles all the money. And when you talk about the $3 million
I wrote a great
base,
column about that, but in the Sun Sentinel, I wrote a great column about Brandon Shore. I think it was by Chris Perkins.
I think so. I think you're right. I think you're right about that. Yeah, they did a great job on getting this deal. OBJ is a major acquisition. I love this acquisition. However, I do wonder about one thing. And let me get into the positive stuff first, because to me, this signifies that they recognize that they needed a number 3 receiver, right? Jonnu Smith is one thing. OBJ is a different level of number 3 receiver. So he immediately makes a defense know that, okay, well, if we focus too much on Tyreek and Jaylen Waddle, here's another guy that can seriously hurt us. This isn't Mike Gesicki or Durham Smythe. This is somebody who can really do some damage. Having said that, Furones, he is more age and more injury risk. And so when you consider that he's, the guys that are 30 and over, Teron Armstead, Tyreek Hill, I think Ramsey will be 30 during the season, Jordan Poyer, Raheem Mostert. That's a lot of over 30s, some of them with injury concerns. OBJ checks both of those boxes. So, well, great signing. Again, excellent signing, excellent addition. How much of a difference will he make considering his age and the injury concern? That I don't know. But, look, the Dolphins are restricted, right? They can't go out and just get whoever they want. Again, this is an excellent signing, but considering the age and the injury problems that he's had and the group that he's joining, how do you think this turns out, Furones? I'm not sure that he's going to make a difference in getting them a home playoff game and helping them win a playoff game, but he will be a factor somehow this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't look at any one move in that regard. And, I mean, you're always going to have injuries, too. So who even knows if Odell Beckham ends up staying healthy for a whole season. Obviously, he's had the injury history that you mentioned. So as far as just putting those expectations, does it change drastically how you view the season? I mean, the Dolphins still have to get back into the postseason, preferably winning a division so that they start with a home playoff game and not have to go into potentially another 4th coldest environment in pro football history on the road in Kansas City when you're a warm weather, warm-blooded team and have to win a game against the defending Super Bowl champions that end up winning another Super Bowl again. So try to get yourself at home to start off by winning the division. The Bills are a little bit weaker. So there's an avenue, there's a way to get there. And then from Odell Beckham's standpoint, you're not asking for too much. You don't need him to be a franchise changer now at 31. He is exactly that, a number 3 receiver. So it's not like it's not like when he was drafted out of LSU 2014 that he was making those highlight reel reach back like 1-3 catching the ball touchdowns one-handed with a couple of fingertips in the end zone. He's got great hands, by the way. So I think he only had 1 drop last year and obviously capable of making highlight reel catches like that. So from that perspective, fantastic. But you don't need him to be that 3-time Pro Bowler from his first 3 seasons. You have Tyreek Hill here. You have Jaylen Waddle here. Last year, he only had 35 catches, but he had 565 receiving yards, which was the most he has had since that 2019 last 1,000-yard season. He had an uptick in yards per catch with a 16.1, which was actually a career high for him. So big plays that he was able to make in the Baltimore offense. I think with the way that things open up with Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane in the backfield, and then maybe also Jonnu Smith getting into those underneath catches or in the red zone. He can do both. He can get yards after catch on tight end screens. And Durham Smythe blocking, Alec Ingold, what he does back there as well, paving the way. And even when you get like River Craycraft in there, he's a good downfield blocker. When you put all these pieces together, then you just need Odell Beckham to play his role, play his part. And when things open up for him, be that guy that could be your number 3 target.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, let's say hello to everybody who's here. Well, everybody who's in our chat room. Logan Hampton, Peter McDowell, Ender Fireplays, YT, Nandito 357, Ronald Lewisdon, Dave Harbor, a lot of our regulars here. Shape Money, welcome to everybody that's here. Look, Furones, Shape Money brings up a good point. All 3 can play the slot, right? We see Tyreek and Jaylen in there. We see OBJ in there. That's great. What does this do to Braxton Berrios? Do you think, as far as his, we know he's going to be a return guy or in the running for the return guy. As far as a slot receiver and his role from scrimmage, he's got to be after OBJ, right? To me.
Right, yeah. I mean, you brought in OBJ to be a number 3 receiver. So he, after Hill and Waddle, then he's the next guy for sure. That's why you bring a player of that caliber, and just different looks that Mike McDaniel can give opposing defenses. So it's not like anyone can just, the same way like Vic Fangio wants to keep Jalen Ramsey on one side. You're not just going, if you want to have someone follow Tyreek Hill, well, you're also going to have things open for Waddle and Beckham, but you can't do that because he's going to be in different spots. And then all these guys are going to be in motion too. The motions that Mike McDaniel has, I mean, it's just going to be a lot of openness for all these guys. And when Hill and Waddle demand the attention that they do, then Beckham is going to be running free plenty on slants, on underneath routes, and then even sometimes the occasional deep ball when Hill and Waddle aren't the ones going all the way over the top of a defense.
By the way, when we talk about options, we better turn up our game because Logan Hampton is asking, is Omar Kelly on this edition? Shape Money is asking about Dave Hyde. Like, well, what are we, Furones? Come on. Come on now. Come on. Put some respect on our name. Come on now. All right, look. Furones, let me ask you one thing real quick without giving away too much for our next segment, which is how the Dolphins are set up for Tua's big payday. I made that mistake last show, and you called me out on it on the air. Thanks. And you mentioned it today before the show, also off the air. So thanks for that too, Furones.
When you mentioned the Jaylen Wright trade, I just thought, okay, I guess we're doing it now, and then we're talking about it again like it's a brand new segment.
I know. I keep stepping in it. All right, Furones, here's the question, though, because it is Jaylen Wright. Actually, it's funny you say that. Okay. What happens to his touches now? Now that you've got OBJ, he's number 5 now, right? Behind Tyreek, behind Jaylen Waddle, behind Raheem Mostert, and behind Devon Achane. Behind OBJ. So he's number 6, right? He's number 6 now. But behind the 3 receivers and the 2 running backs. So,
and possibly 1 or 2 of the tight ends. I mean,
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, how are you really going to rank these right. Playmakers in terms of how many touches they're going to get? It's really going to be a lot of game plan based. Right. Who's open, who's getting more snaps on a given game day. So it's going to be really difficult to just, because after Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, and then also you're probably trying to get even snaps for Mostert and Achane. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of just clumped together. Everyone's going to be really tight as far as how many touches they get.
Yeah, and so really how I'm going to choose to look at this is that they've built some quality depth with necessary redundancies built into the system, right? Because we talk about, I mentioned the injuries earlier, and you kind of think, right, that Jaylen Waddle kind of gets knocked around, and Tyreek, he takes a lot of receptions and everything. We know Raheem, he has to take days off in practice. And so I think they kind of built some redundancies into these skill positions where, I think that that's a good thing. And so I talk about Jaylen Wright's touches going down, but I really do think that they have built some necessary redundancies into the system to build some quality depth. Would you agree with that, or do you think they've added some pieces that they should have put at right guard or D tackle?
Actually, yeah, I would have loved some pieces at those positions based on where the roster stands, and then adding more where you're already strong. But Jaylen Wright, I don't think you go into the season thinking, okay, he's got to get this many touches per game. I think when you have all your running backs healthy, then Mostert and Achane are going to get their lion's share split between them two, and then more so Jaylen Wright early on. It's going to be if one of them goes down with injury. I mean, both of them missed games. It was Mostert toward the end of the year. Although he stayed healthy for much of it, he's only going to be another year older going into age 32 season. And Devon Achane, it looks like he's been tacking on some muscle to better handle a greater workload, if that indeed is the case for him. But obviously, smaller build, so you're not going to put that much of an onus on him. So if and whenever either one of them goes down, then Jaylen Wright is a nice piece to just get in there and then fill that other one's role. So I don't think you go in saying, all right, we need to get Jaylen Wright his touches immediately. I think you could sort of operate where, all right, he's the guy. If and when someone goes down, we just have that other player that steps right in, and you don't have a big drop off. Like the way NBA teams try to mix and match their bench that way. Like, all right, we have a good scorer coming off the bench, so it's not like everyone coming off the bench when you have that second unit coming in is just a defender that can't set up his own shot. You need someone that can come off the bench and create on his own. So that's sort of what I would label him as in that situation.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. You hit the nail right on the head, and that's kind of what I like about how the Dolphins are building this team. I think that this is a slightly different approach than the previous 2 years from that standpoint, and I like what I see. By the way, Shake Money says, love the show. This is the first time I catch you live. I listened to all the replays. Love you guys. Appreciate that, Shake Money.
Sounds like the old long time, first time.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. That's old school, Furones. How you know that? Yeah. All right, segment 2. Here's how the Dolphins are setting themselves up for Tua's big money deal. And again, I think the Dolphins have done a pretty good job here. Chris Breer always says you look at the next couple of years while you're building this year's team. Here's where I'm going to give him credit for Jaylen Wright. He is quality depth for Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. By the way, Furones, see if you agree with me on this one. Jaylen Wright Jaylen Wright is a smaller, fast running back, but he's different from Achane. Achane is a little smaller. I think Jaylen Wright is more like Lamar Miller, right? He's built a little bit thicker. He's still a fast back, but I think he's got a little more endurance than Devon Achane. I think he's more Lamar Miller than Devon Achane.
Well, I don't know if it'll translate into endurance per se, but I see the build that he has for sure. Yeah. I haven't seen him in person yet. We had a Zoom with him, and you can see from pictures and watching film him at Tennessee and the scouting combine pictures, and we saw him on a Zoom. But this rookie minicamp, we will get a better look at him, I hope.
Yep. Nizzle, what's up? He joined us on the chat. So when we're talking about building depth, Jaylen Wright is depth for Mostert and Achane. You've got and for Tua's big money deal, how you're set up. You've got Jalen Phillips and Jalen Waddle on fifth-year options for 2025. So we're looking ahead. You've got Chop Robinson, right? He's either depth or he can substitute for Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips if one of them doesn't come back for the injury, whatever. Patrick Paul for Teron Armstead, right? You've got Tyreek signed through 2026. Bradley Chubb signed through 2027. I believe Ramsey, this is 2025 is it for him, and there's voidable years afterwards. But Furones, in 2025 and 2024, you're set up to absorb Tua's contract, right? If he gets the big money, and I think the Dolphins should get a little credit for this, for the forward thinking now. The quality, you still got to work on improving some quality, but I think when you look at their plan, I think they're going in the right direction here.
Yeah, and it's targeting some premium positions. I think that's what you're getting at here. So you get young players where you'd have to spend in years to come, but you get them on their rookie contracts to start off. So you end up building a little. That's how you build around a quarterback going into his second contract. I think we've seen the Chiefs successfully do that. Where, they moved on from Tyreek Hill. They got cornerbacks. They got like Karlaftis as an edge rusher. All these picks, these draft picks at these premium positions that generally do cost teams a lot of money. So what do the Dolphins do? An edge rusher to start off with Chop Robinson, even though they're already on paper, before you start looking into the injuries that Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are coming off of, the Achilles and the ACL for them two respectively. Well, you have these strong starters there, but now Chop Robinson, he gives you that contingency plan going forward, or for the time being, some tremendous pass rushing packages that you can throw all of them into, along with another veteran, Shaq Barrett. You go for Patrick Paul in the second round. So a left tackle for your future after you've already addressed that premium position in free agency with a veteran, five-time Pro Bowler in Armstead. Well, now you have your plan going forward beyond that with a rookie contract player that you take in the second round that, still needs some development. I think Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer were pretty open about that. But he has some of the raw tools, the size, the strength. He's a good pass protector already, and he showed a lot of strides in his final college year at Houston, where you have some of the traits and then a lot of the other things like hand placement with, I think, both of them, Chop Robinson as a pass rusher and Patrick Paul as far as his technique that he'll need to come into the NFL with. You get their position coaches to work with them, and those are fixable things that you can go ahead and do in the NFL. So Perk, what is it that some of these players have in common? Aside from that, a lot of them are named Jaylen. Is that, yes, premium positions that the Dolphins are targeting here, as they know they will be paying a lucrative contract extension to Tua, and will need to find some cheaper options, at least as far as how much you're paying them, but even though you're still looking for premium production, while not paying the premium for a top-notch free agent down the road. You get them on their rookie deals coming in as draft picks.
Right. And look, the one big one out there is Javon Holland, right? After you get past Tua, then it becomes Javon Holland, and what are you going to do with him, and what kind of money are you going to give him, and how much you value the position that he plays as far as being a team leader, being a safety, and being a draftee, being a homegrown product. I think that's got to be a high priority for the Dolphins. I won't say that you have to keep Javon Holland, but it would be good to keep Javon Holland. He's a defensive leader. And to me, considering that you've lost Xavier Howard, Christian Wilkins, and Jerome Baker, I would like to see a little bit of continuity. Now, look, I say this all the time. Those guys who left, as much as I like them, Xavier Howard, Jerome Baker, Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, Rob Hunt, they never got you a playoff victory, right? So while I respect them, what they did was not good enough. So it's hard for me to call Javon Holland from that standpoint essential personnel. But I do think you've got to bring them back. You don't have a better answer, right? You've got 34-year-old Jordan Poyer, and then you've got Elijah Campbell. Right now, you really don't have a better answer. So to me, whether you do Javon before Tua or after Tua, you've got to do something to keep Javon Holland in the fold the way the roster looks right now.
Yeah, you mentioned all those players, those homegrown talents. Yeah, it never got you a playoff win. And then also, how many Pro Bowls do they have combined? All four of those guys. Yeah, right. 0 right now. So are you going to do what the Las Vegas Raiders did and pay $27.5 million for Christian Wilkins? And the Dolphins weren't going to do that. Are you going to make Robert Hunt a $100 million guard? No, the Dolphins were not going to do that. So, and even before Javon Holland, I mean, Jaylen that you mentioned, fifth-year options for them as their 2021 first-rounders, but also their extension status because, you push it back one more year because they are first-rounders. You have that fifth-year option that they're eligible for, but they will also be high priority. In fact, Jaylen Waddle, probably after Tua, the highest priority as a wide receiver that you selected number 6 overall. So you don't want it to continue where you have the whole Christian Wilkins thing where, all right, fifth-year option. We know where we got that other year, but then he ends up balling out that year. and the price just keeps going up. And if you were trying to negotiate then, it's only going to be harder to negotiate later. So you got to see how all that plays out, where maybe you do want to get it done sooner than later. As far as whether you're prioritizing Javon Holland right now, since he is the more immediate need, where he's going into free agency after this year, where he doesn't have a fifth year option available as a second rounder.
A couple of things from the chat here. Peter McDowell, I hope to see more game-changing plays from Holland. Solid, but not enough. Spectacular, but not enough spectacular plays in my eyes, based on his reputation in some sections of the media. I'm a Javon Holland fan. Let me just say that. Do I pump him up too much? Maybe. But I do think that he is essential personnel, the way that this defense is set up. No, he's not. He has no Pro Bowl berths or anything like that. But look, when you look at the guys on that defense who really bring it, and it's been one of my criticisms of this team, is they don't have enough nastiness. They don't have enough mean-spirited guys on that defense, like Jerome Baker and Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Again, these are people you would trust to babysit your kids. I want a little bit of an edge on my defense. Javon Holland brings that. Deshaun Elliott brought that. David Long brings that. Christian Wilkins brought that. I want to see more nasty, and that's what I like about Holland, is he's got that attitude. He's got that edge, that chip on his shoulder. The defense needs that. The team needs that.
I think the word you're looking for is he's got that dog in him.
That's it, baby. That's it. Exactly. So this team needs more of that, so I like that. From David Lazar, or Lazar, any update on the NFL schedule release? I'm hearing the Jets will be the last game of the season this year. I haven't really heard anything on the schedule. Should be coming out later on this month. But weren't we having a discussion, Furones, about something about the last game of the season being a division game and home? Was that you?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you just look at how it goes every year, it's a rotation of last game being a divisional game against the other three opponents. So last year, all right, they finished at home against Buffalo. Right, the year before that, they finished at home against the Jets. The year before that, it was when they had the Patriots at home. So I think now, if it just remains consistent, right before that, 2020 finished with Buffalo on the road. Was 2019 finished with New England on the road, like that. So by that rotation, it would actually be the Patriots now on the road for Week 18 if the NFL remains consistent scheduling that way.
All right, so there you go. See,
so on the rotation. Right. If you just go by that rotation, then the Patriots are due now to actually host the Dolphins in the finale if it remains consistent that way, if they continue doing it the way they have for the last several seasons.
All right, I'm going to propose that bet on the Hard Rock app. I'm going to see if I can get that as a prop bet.
It seems pretty specific to have as a prop betted. And I think odds makers would just have they'd be on top of trends like that. So.
Yeah.
It has to be a divisional game because they always form the final week of the regular season that way, where it's all divisional games. So we know that much. And then just if you go by a rotation, it has been every division opponent each third season. So.
All right. I'm gonna get somebody at a bar to take that bet. I'm gonna start doing some stocks. No.
You find your action that way. I'm sure some random, if you tell them who you are and that you cover the Dolphins, I'm sure they will be gladly willing to accept a bet against you. But maybe you got to buy them a few beers first so that they'll actually take you up on it.
That's right. It's an investment, baby. That's it. It's ROI, return on investment. That's it. All right. Here we go into the fastest growing segment of the show. It is the Furones bonus.
Oh, the Furones bonus.
I like it. I feel like I'm at the Miami Grand Prix again. All right, here is our question. By the way, I'm not an F1 fan, but I'm definitely a Miami Grand Prix fan. What an event. By the way, here's our question. So with Odell Beckham Jr. now on the Dolphins, who has the most off-field star power on this team? Tua has some juice. Tyreek has some juice. OBJ, I think he broke up with Kim Kardashian, right? Jalen Ramsey, he was on the podium at the award stand there at the F1. Mike McDaniel, he's got some juice. What about Dan Marino? He's not officially part of this team, but does he have the most off-field juice? Furones, your thoughts?
Well, I went and did some extensive research for this question, and actually, yeah, I just looked up some Instagram followers. That's how I'm basing this. And Odell Beckham Jr. actually has a very far-reaching, extensive lead on everyone else now that he's here. So 17.6 million Instagram followers for Odell Beckham Jr. So that probably makes him the biggest star when you think about his reach, global reach, just celebrity status beyond just a football player. Tyreek Hill, I found between these options that we have, was next at 2.5 million. Jalen Ramsey, the elite football talent that he is, he's at 1.6 million, so still in the millions. And then Tua, obviously being the polarizing figure that he is, as far as quarterback scouting and analysis that goes around, he's at 1.1 million, so he has cracked that 1 million threshold, even though he's not very active on social media. So probably very organic gaining of a following where it's just everyone that's really just a fan of Tua, and trying to see, the rare occasions when he is posting. Mike McDaniel, we know, is very popular among just about everyone, but doesn't use social media. So he makes enough viral clips just from his media sessions, his interviews alone, and his sideline interactions and all of that. Dan Marino, yeah, I would love to see if he was in his prime during a social media prime wave. Then I could imagine he would probably be the leader in the clubhouse because he's been in movies, so many ads, a very marketable player as a quarterback, most prolific quarterback of his time, and maybe even still when you compare it to his generation. So. Right now, I got to give it to Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, he has the star power from being linked to Kim Kardashian, although my understanding is, like you said, they have recently broken up. I'm not sure about it. I don't follow it like that to be on top of it to that level. But I did do one quick Google search, and the first article I found from some paparazzi site, what are those, tabloids? And then I think in the lead, they reference Odell Beckham Jr. as a soccer player. So I was like, oh, well, how much can we trust this source right here? They don't even know what sport Odell Beckham plays. They got the wrong footballer, and the wrong Beckham in Miami with their sport and what they do. But yeah, I would give it to OBJ. Clearly, he has a following just based on his personality, his star. That reaches beyond whatever NFL team he plays for. Obviously, starting in New York, starting his NFL career with the Giants helps you there. And then when you're linked to Kim Kardashian, it's also going to raise your star power. So right now, you got to give it to him.
Second Dolphins player linked to Kim Kardashian, Reggie Bush, was also dating Kim Kardashian for a while.
If we want to go all time, then all time Dolphins. Now Reggie Bush has to be in that conversation. Similar, and then Dan Marino. What's that?
Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams, yeah. And right. So in a lot of communities, he made a lot of whether it was just people who enjoy smoking marijuana but are not big football fans. They knew who he was from that. So and Dan Marino, all timer, of course. Yeah. But Odell Beckham Jr. right now, probably that guy as far as off the field star power.
Hey, let me ask you something very quick to wrap this up. And we see some questions in there. We're going to get to them. Furones, this team, as far as the NFL, I know, you always date movie stars and hip hop stars. This team seems to have a lot of people dating social media influencers, doesn't it? Or is that just me? Braxton Berrios did or still is. Duke Riley did or still is. Jake Bailey. Jordan Poyer, his wife has a big social media personality. Do you think this team is unusual from that standpoint, or is just another NFL team? To me, they kind of stand out, but I don't know what the norm is in the NFL, quite honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what the norm is. Obviously, athletes, very popular. Right. Yeah, and these are great dudes that we're all talking about here. So, you can see why. And also, so you mentioned influencers, like they also have Miami ties from beforehand. Like I know Braxton Berrios' girlfriend, Alex Earl, University of Miami grad as well. So South Florida ties there before Braxton Berrios even got in. Braxton Berrios, University of Miami as well. I know Jordan Poyer's wife, Rachel Bush, local Boca Raton, I believe. Well, FAU, I know, is an FAU grad. So yeah, and then and they lived in South Florida before Jordan Poyer even moved down here, so that was their off-season home. So you see some of the links as to why South Florida, they're already coming to South Florida anyway, and want to be here. So I think that's another bigger point, is that a lot of players want to be in Miami. So then you end up just, all right, they end up being Dolphins, of course, because that's South Florida's football team. So that's how you end up here.
Right, exactly. So, all right, well, it is kind of it's an interesting team from the locker room standpoint. That social media influencer thing, we'll keep an eye on that. Furones, let's move on to segment 3. What I want to see in rookie camp. The Dolphins have a rookie camp on Friday and Saturday, and look, Chop Robinson is going to be out there, the first-round pick, the edge rusher from Penn State. Patrick Paul, the left tackle, the second-round pick from Houston. We got a question in here from Jeff Fraser, and we want to get to it. I'm sorry, Jeff says he's on lunch, so I wanted to get to this quick. He says, tuned in late to the live, now on lunch. Are you discussing the O-line? Is the plan to move Liam to left guard and sign a vet right guard? Risner, Pete, trade. We probably aren't going to get a guard answer in this rookie mini camp off the top of my head. It would be a major shock, right? It would be some undrafted kid coming up. But right guard, I think you do have some options. Liam could play left guard. I would be fine with that. Right guard, you could have Rob Jones, right? Get a look at that one.
Isaiah Wynn, left guard, yeah.
What's that?
Isaiah Wynn, who won.
Yes, Isaiah Wynn. I was going to say, I don't know where Wynn is going to fit in here, because he's the potential starter, right? So you could have, I guess, really 3 potential starters among Eichenberg, Jones, and Wynn, or you could choose to bring somebody in with the Xavier Howard money, right? You could see how things go and throughout training camp and see who gets cut. Right now, I think you're going to go with what you have. I know Dalton Risner is out there. He played for Butch Berry in Denver in 2022, right? Yeah. And so, but I think they're going to hold right now, see what they've got in camp, and then proceed after the cuts are made.
Yeah, I would imagine some veteran. Maybe it's Risner. I forget how to pronounce his name. Is it Reisner? Is it Risner? But yeah, he's a guy who could sign on late, or someone comparable to fill one of the guard spots. And then, hey, you still have Connor Williams kind of in the balance. He's sort of a wild card in all of this. He's focusing on his rehab right now, so he's got to get that straight after the ACL injury that cut his 2023 season short, that Monday night game against the Titans. So he's not looking into his free agency right now. He remains a free agent. It seems like from I asked Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer about him when we last had them as the draft wrapped up, and they are in communication with him. So it seems like something could work itself out once he feels comfortable with where he is in his rehab and he's ready to get back into working out football-related workouts, and he has the knee right. So that's something to look out for, is also if Connor Williams can re-emerge himself in here. And then with Aaron Brewer, who you brought in, he has played guard, so he has that interior offensive line versatility because he's most recently a center. Right now, you would think he's a center, but I don't think it's set in stone. So now you did go through the draft. You didn't really address the interior of the offensive line with a high draft pick, like could have been possible. But now that you went through that portion without making an addition there, he's sort of also an X factor in where he ends up based on whatever else is brought in. So if it is indeed another guard, then he could just stay right there at center. But if it's Connor Williams, do you want to keep him at center like you've had him the last 2 years, who made a transition from guard? Or since he has that guard background, do you prefer Aaron Brewer as the center? And then you can get a Connor Williams back there at guard, or vice versa. Well, whichever one I said first. Now now my brain is all tangled up on it. But guard or center between the two is what I'm saying.
Right, right. Yeah, they do have some good interior line options. Is it quality depth? And now, if like you said, if Connor Williams comes back, all your problems are solved. If he doesn't, then you've got to work through some issues. Cap for Life, welcome to the show, one of our regulars. Cap for Life. Well, let's go with Jonathan Deal. What are your realistic expectations for OBJ this season? I think I guess if you want numbers, maybe 40 receptions, something like that. But really, I think he's got to be an option. He's got to be an option that defenses have to take seriously. And then he's got to deliver a little bit. But I think the threat of OBJ, if he can deliver a little bit, the threat of OBJ will go a long way. So to me, he's got to be a legit, viable number 3 option. And once he establishes himself as that, then I think his reputation also works in, and that's where you get a true benefit from OBJ.
Yeah, if you want numbers, I mean, some of it is going to play into just how big of seasons that Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle have too, because there's only so many balls. I mean, unless Tua is going to throw for 7,000 yards this year, they're not all going to get on the high end of the receiving numbers that you expect. So is Tyreek Hill going for another 2K? Well, where he had 1,800 basically this year, 1,799. Well, if you have OBJ getting his numbers and you have Jaylen Waddle seeing an uptick because 1,000 yards, he just barely made 1,000 yards last season. Right. That's sort of on the low end of what you would expect out of him. You kind of see the floor being, if he stays healthy, maybe just misses a game or two, like he missed 3 last year, then 1,000 is kind of what you expect. But you maybe even want to see an uptick into 1,200 for Jaylen Waddle. If Tyreek Hill stays into that 1,700 range or at least 1,500, now you're already over 2,500 on those two alone. So I think if you're going for a 40-catch, 500-yard season for Odell Beckham Jr., that's great. He already had 500 just last season. Maybe as a more like a higher on the priority list option in Baltimore. And if you're going to be giving balls to Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, yeah, I think that would be a reasonable number to hope for, assuming some semblance of health, where if he doesn't have to miss a lot of games. So that's kind of where I'd look at in that range, because you also have a couple of tight ends that need to get their passes. You have some. You want to go ahead and give Raheem Mostert catching the ball to the backfield, give him some space. Devon Achane, same thing. You'd love to get him out into some space on some catches. So if you look at Tua Tagovailoa having a 4,000-yard season, you're already starting to run out of who can get those other remaining receiving yards after that. So I think something like 500 would be very reasonable.
Yeah. And by the way, a lot of this is going to, you mentioned all those names. A lot of this season is going to have to do with Mike McDaniel's offense and whether he truly mixes up the distribution. He can't go so heavily Tyreek and Jaylen Waddle to maximize this offense. He's got to spread the ball around or use the threat of spreading the ball around. By the way, Mark Jones, welcome. Richard O'Connor, welcome. Richard O'Connor says, woohoo, mate, the live. How's everyone doing? Missed everyone. I'm excited for this draft class. Think we built for the future and added some good depth. That's a timely comment because this segment is about what we want to see at rookie camp on Friday and Saturday. So when you look at this draft class and you talk about the depth that they built, rookie minicamp, they're not going to have pads on. They're not going to be doing 11 on 11s. But here's what I want to see, Furones, and you tell me what you want to see. I'm looking for those high draft picks, namely Chop Robinson and Patrick Paul, and I guess you could say Jaylen Wright maybe, but I'm looking for them to appear smooth, appear athletic, be aware of what's going on, don't look lost. The mid-round picks, the Jaylen Wright and Mo Kamara. I want to see you guys show some potential. Show me something that I go, okay. And then the low round and undrafted guys push each other. Show me something. Show me something against one of the high draft picks. Show me that you're out there and that you're legit. We can't draw any conclusions from this, Furones. We know that, but you're looking for things like, this guy looks smooth, right? He doesn't look like he's lost. He doesn't look like he's clumsy or off balance or anything like that. That's what I look for in rookie minicamp, and that's what I'm going to be looking for this week.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, what we're going to see is very limited. I mean, I think we just get like a 15-minute window. I don't know. Do we get to see more of rookie minicamp? I think it's very small portion, right? So it's just like some stretching and some positional work. I don't think they'll really line up very much in anything because it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of positions. It's not like you have a full roster out there of guys trying out. It'll be fun to see sort of some of the names that you see pop up with rookie minicamp invites that you show up and then you find out. Oh, yeah, especially for me, which I covered some local guys when they were in high school, maybe finding some names that, I hadn't seen on a roster on paper since they were at like Miramar High or something in 2018. And I'm like, coach, hey, there's that guy. I haven't seen him in a while. And so as far as it's going to be very difficult to find some of those traits, I think a lot of what to expect based on watching them in college, watching the tape, and then also now we've interviewed them once, but I mean now we're going to get more thorough interviews. Chop Robinson, we also had a lengthier in-person interview, the first-round pick sort of introductory press conference, which was great to get from the Dolphins there. So. I mean, Patrick Paul, want to see him in person, like that size. How real is it? I know you saw him at the Senior Bowl, and you were up close with him. So just that 6'7" and his length, you notice small things like if you shake the guy's hand, like does he just devour your hand?
Right.
So you really get a sense of their physical traits that opposing players will be going up against. And I remember last year we saw Devon Achane, and then his speed was just so noticeable from the very jump. Like, okay, he moves different. It's very smooth. Like you mentioned the word smooth. You see that in some of the very limited stuff that you'll get to see, but also just the impression that they make, how they handle sort of their first time in a pro setting, and does it look like they're kind of lost because it's new from what they did in college, or are they on top of things? Did they study whatever was given to them ahead of this tryout, and then just if they conduct themselves like pros?
Chat line kind of blowing up here. Manny Naira, welcome. Eric Rivera, MIA's finest 17. Hooked up Joe, great to see you again. Ocean Breeze Detail. Manny Naira says the Washington kid reminds me of Jarvis. Taj Washington, right? Just Taj from USC.
There's two.
There's two. But I think that's true. They're both I don't know which one. But look. We do
competition there. That'll be good. That's one thing to see if one of them steps up and looks like he's ahead of the other.
Right. And let me ask you this: when you look at the roster, both of the Washingtons during the draft, I was like, yeah, okay, so that's what they're going to do at the slot. They've kind of doubled down on small, and now OBJ comes in, and so when you talk about
down.
Yeah, they tripled, but OBJ is a different body type, a different type. You had Berrios, Washington as small slots, and really, I guess Jalen Waddle and Tyreek, but they're different. But now you got a different body type in the slot. I like that. So I like what the Dolphins are doing from that standpoint. But I do want to see the Washington kids. And I do want to see what they can do. Again, we're not going to see a whole lot, but yes, smoothness. Look, you talk about what we saw last year. Remember, Sean Smith was getting his hands on a lot of those passes last year. Didn't turn out to translate, but you do want to see something like that. So the Washington kids, I do want to see them, see a little shake in them, see what you can do. How are your hands? How is your route running? Things like that. I think that there are things that you can see from this kind of glorified underwear Olympics.
Right. Yeah, and I think they drafted those two guys late for competition. I mean, they're not both going to be getting roster spots. Let's say that. With the wide receivers, the depth chart at wide receiver, and If they do present some kind of redundancy, yeah, these guys might be battling for one roster spot as far as a young slot receiver. Malik Washington, obviously, the kid out of Virginia, led college football with 110 receptions. So in those shorter intermediate routes, how he handles himself and makes those cuts, and how much he can get himself open quickly, especially with Tua Tagovailoa being a quarterback that gets the ball out quick. So that could end up being a low-key dark horse for a big-time contributor once the season rolls around, if he starts showing those same traits as he goes into a professional career. And Taj Washington can also sort of hit the deep ball from that respect as well a little bit. So some traits that Mike McDaniel will love in those guys, and you can tell why if he went ahead and drafted them late. And actually, Malik Washington was expected to go much earlier in the draft, so tremendous value that the Dolphins got in picking him up where they did in the sixth round. So yeah, just getting a look at these guys will be really valuable.
It will. By the way, I'm doing a online Q&A. So Peter McDowell, Jeff Fraser, David Lazar, Cap for Life, Richard O'Connor, Hooked Up Joe. I've got your questions lined up, so I will be answering those online. Eric Rivera says, love the show. Great job, guys. I think Greer is doing a good job being patient and trusting his coaches. I do think that Chris Greer has done a good job not kind of jumping the gun, so to speak, letting the season play out, seeing what happens with these acquisitions. What do you think, Furones, about how long you give some of these acquisitions this season? And I'm talking about I guess really the edge rushers. How long before you decide, well, we've got to go out and get somebody else? Do you make that decision at Thanksgiving? The trade deadline is gone by then. So you're going to be looking at picking up some discarded help, some Eric Fisher type help, some Melvin Ingram type help. When you see some of these guys, when do you make the decisions? Look, you could have hopefully you don't have to make a Armstead, Kendall Lamb choice because Patrick Paul is there, but trusting your coaches and trusting your players, how much will you trust some of those guys this year?
Are you saying the rookies or the free agent pickups?
Any of them. But and really, because you need Chubb and Phillips so much, how much rope do you give them? Or how much rope do you give Chop Robinson and some of these guys? What do you think about? With me, if I don't see the defensive ends, the edge rushers, really doing something by early November, whoever is in there, I'm probably picking up the phone and calling about making some trades because that's such a premium position. Short rope on that position, like interior offensive line, I could trust the coaches. What about any trouble spots, anything that you're going to be watching early to make a trade deadline move, say?
Yeah, I think, well, all right. We talked about defensive tackle, interior offensive line, also another safety potentially. I mean, these are all things that we're sort of hoping, even right now, the Dolphins address before the end of the offseason. So whether it's, now you made your big move before that post-June 1 money comes from the Xavier Howard release. You made it on Odell Beckham Jr., made him sort of a priority, which I think for a guy like him, you needed to. Now, you still have those small positions of need. You can kind of narrow it down to those three. Maybe you extend it to some other spots, but that's where you still want to add some competition, maybe some depth. Safety, you still probably need another guy. They drafted Patrick McMorris late in the draft, but still with Jordan Poyer now going into deeper into his 30s, and you brought him in. But Javon Holland also already just had some injuries for the first time in his career last year, so you still need some depth. You have Elijah Campbell there. Maybe Nick Needham can play some safety if needed in some packages, but there might still be another guy there. But these are positions you're trying to maybe address before the end of the offseason. Probably you let this month slide through, and then post June 1, you start looking into those positions. And then if still some of those are still outstanding from that point on, once you get into the season, and then maybe there's some attrition due to injury during the season, it always happens. Then by that mid-season point, once you hit that trade deadline, you hope you really find out what your roster still needs, and then that's where you're addressing. So, I would expect the Dolphins unless they take care of everything between now and the start of training camp, to probably be active by next trade deadline, trying to fix whatever small holes still need to be filled, as you are trying to make this win now movement, while still, although this draft takes care of maybe some future needs that you don't have to plan for as much now, once you've addressed them for the future seasons.
Okay, two things before we get out of here. Scant Dollar, welcome. Here's what we have. A couple of people are saying they're excited about Mo Kamara, the edge rusher, the 5th-round pick out of Colorado State. Richard O'Connor, the last line of his text here, says Kamara is going to be the steal of the draft. Shake Money asks, would you be shocked if Mo leapfrogs Chop in the rotation? Richard O'Connor says Chop will be good, but Kamara got that dog in him, that chip on his shoulder. That makes him more dangerous. What do you think about this Mo Kamara hype? I mean, is it? I don't know anything about Mo Kamara. I'm gonna be upfront about that. I will find out about him. But could he be a factor? That's all we're gonna ask of a 5th round. Could he be a factor early in the season, do you think?
Now, one thing he does have is that his pass rush wins, they were translating to sacks. He has the sack numbers. Now, was he seeing the same level of competition as a Chop Robinson in the Big Ten compared to Mo Kamara playing at Colorado State? No, there was a difference there. So, maybe a lot of Chop Robinson's pass rush wins, if he was playing against some smaller schools, those would have translated into some sacks. But, there were a lot of colleges that they went away from Chop Robinson, or they, like the Michigan game, I think now they always had a strong run game. I went to a Michigan State game the year before when the Dolphins were in Detroit, that Saturday night before in Ann Arbor, and I remember how dominant their run game was. But Michigan, stuck to the run in playing Penn State last year, and it was partially because early on in that game, Chop Robinson was just destroying the tackle in front of them, and they just had to go away from it. They were too scared of him destroying the whole game plan and just having that much of an impact. So, Mo Kamara has a lot of potential, and he's another guy, great value pick, the same way we mentioned Malik Washington, that he was expected to go earlier. And also, Perk, I don't know if we're wrapping up soon, but I want to know your F1 experience before we go. That's another thing you got to get to.
Oh, yeah. No, I had a great time at F1. Look, I tweeted that it's a top 10 event in my career of 30-plus years. I don't know if it moved into the top 5, but a great event. The racing was great. The whole setup, the whole campus, the whole F1 campus. I walked 7 miles Friday, 7.2 miles on Sunday, and didn't really even notice it because your head is just on a swivel. It's just sensory overload. You're just looking at everything that's out there. And F1 has got so many bright, vibrant neon colors, whether you're at a press conference or the food and concession stands, and everything out there was just incredible. I don't know that I'm an F1 fan, but I am 100% a Miami Grand Prix fan. 100%. Yeah.
I actually passed by on the Saturday, just had a campus pass and just walked around, and every now and then, whenever you get a good view of the race or they were qualifying, then see the cars zoom by, that's fun to watch. But then also just experiencing it as an event. And Perk, from what I'm hearing, the way you're putting in your top 5, top 10, sounds like of sporting events to you, this is now like the Venice Beach, similar to as far as places in America.
That's right. That is one of the great Perkins Furones inside jokes. This season, my utterings as we sat at the Venezuela on Venice Beach, pounding beers and watching college football, and how many times did I mutter, Furones is an iconic place, one of the best places in America, top 5.
Deep inhale and exhale. One of the best places in America, one of the top 5 greatest places. Every 20 minutes, you said it.
Yeah, you had to be there. Be fortunate that you weren't. All right, look, here's how we're going to wrap this up, and I can't believe. So now Tua is blowing up on the chat as a topic. So let me try to get to the top. So Richard O'Connor says, all I know is statistically, this will be the greatest year of Tua's career if healthy. He will spread the ball around to so many weapons. It's going to make defenses dizzy with speed and motion. Scant Dollar says, it's year 5. I'm still hearing Tua going to ball out. Richard O'Connor, he actually did very well last year, and it's not year 5. First year, never should have played. Second year, Flores and injuries. Technically, it's year 3 and year 2 in the same system. Scant dollars. Stop blaming Flores. Such a weak excuse. Peter McDowell, I need to see Tua put this team on his shoulders, which I did not see enough for an elite level quarterback. Justin Herbert's name got brought in. So here's my question to you. What are you expecting from Tua, and how big a factor is he in the success of this season? First here, you know my stance on Tua and the Dolphins and this offense, that the 3 most important things in this offense in order are Tyreek Hill, Mike McDaniel, and then Tua. Now, I'm not minimizing Tua. I'm just saying that you've got to Tyreek. I think it's the Tyreek and the threat of Tyreek that is the basis of this offense. Second, I think Mike McDaniel's play calling. He's got to take advantage of a number 3 receiver, of a big back, short yardage calls, get those plays in sooner. And then third, we saw Tua stay healthy for all 17 last year. You still didn't win a playoff game. You still didn't get a home playoff game. Yes, Richard O'Connor, to answer your question, they do need to win a playoff game this year. So with Tua, Furones, how do you agree with my thing of it's Tyreek, McDaniel, and Tua? And what are you expecting from Tua? How big a key is he to this team's success? You know that Anthony Weaver is there on defense. Maybe the defense is a little better and take some pressure off of him. Your thoughts on Tua?
Yeah, when you started mentioning 3 things, I thought you were going to go back to that other quote that you mentioned. That you always say this offense is about 2 things: Tyreek Hill and the threat of Tyreek Hill. And then I was wondering where you were going to go with the third one. Is it the threat of Tyreek Hill? But yeah, as far as Tua goes, now we know he's going to get his money. It seems like that's sort of both sides are committed to it. It's just a matter of what exactly that figure will be per year, and then other small details in the contract that these type of extensions have, and in the verbiage and these minute details that have to get worked out before the pen is put, the ink is put on the paper. But after he gets his money, after he gets that guaranteed, I want to make sure he is still the same hungry quarterback that he has been all this time. And I think from what I know of Tua, that his personality, he will be. He won't be one of these guys that, well, he got his money now, he's coasting. He played for that next contract, and now he's getting. And we actually see it a lot in the NFL. And sometimes it surprises you, the player that ends up just sort of completely tailing off after they get paid. Like, all right, they lost their hunger. They already know they're getting paid. They're set for life, and now they don't have the same desire. I don't see that in Tua. I feel like he's competitive for his teammates and for the Miami Dolphins organization for trusting him, showing how much trust they have shown in him when so much on the outside. And even at one point when Brian Flores was on the inside, how much doubt there was on him. And so I think he appreciates the organization for choosing him and showing how much faith they've had in him, and will always want to pay it back once they do now hit this contract, whatever it might be, and continue to play strong also for himself and for his teammates. So I want to see him to maintain that level of productivity, stay healthy again, because that's still always the biggest thing when it comes to Tua, and then also cut down on some turnovers, because we did see an uptick in interceptions last season. So, and then obviously the ones we have mentioned ad nauseum: beat the good teams, remain consistent, don't just front run kind of when they're beating up on bad teams. Be able to go against a top-notch defense, go against some of the playoff teams, other contenders, win those games, and then also get yourself in a position where late in the season, whether you have to go into a road environment and win, or once you do get into the playoffs, is compete at that high level and end up delivering this franchise a playoff victory for the first time since 2000.
Raphael Courtwright, welcome to the conversation, one of our regulars. Raphael says Tua can't carry a team 1 out of 4 years healthy, but 29 TDs and 20 total turnovers, 14 interceptions, 6 lost fumbles. Hella not franchise money, in my opinion. I would agree with that. I give him hella money, not franchise money. I kind of, once he gets to about $40 million on the salary cap, Tua needs help. Most quarterbacks need help. They need a lot of help. And I don't like paying Dak Prescott the 55 on the cap or whatever he's got. The Daniel Jones 47, definitely not Deshaun and his 63 or whatever. These quarterback salaries have got to be kept in check somehow, because you've got to be able to build around these guys. And when they're taking up so much money, this is nothing against the quarterbacks, it restricts your ability to build around them. So that's what I would say with Tua. I'm not giving him that crazy money, and he's got to show me that he can stay healthy and that he can do more to carry a team. So I'm making him play this year on his 5th-year option, and if he shows me what I need to see, he gets his extension after next year. Your thoughts on that, and we'll
after next year. So
yeah. Well, after this year. After this year.
Well, yeah. But yeah, it's already his last season. So now you're talking about letting him become a free agent.
Well, he's got to show me this season that he can do everything that you need him to do. If not,
I thought that was last year.
What's that?
I thought that was last year. I thought that's what you needed to see last year and the year before that, and then I saw him stay healthy. And then now is the time you got to sign him to an extension. Well, so you're going to see all that, and then you're going to see his price go up even more, and then that's when you do it, because then price won't be the same.
No, it won't. I'm willing to roll the dice. And again, look, I know that both sides have a great stakes in this, right? Because with Tua, he can tell the Dolphins, all right, jack around if you want to, but my price is going up if I have a good year. And the Dolphins tell Tua, look, number one, you're never going to have a coach who loves you as his son. You played under Brian Flores. Do you want to risk losing that? Number two, you get one injury this year, whether it's a broken finger or a blown out knee, your guaranteed money is shrivels down to this. So both sides have something here. I favor the Dolphin side. I'll roll the dice, and maybe I end up paying more for him, but I just can't give him all that money right now, seeing what I've seen.
Yeah, well, it's just a matter. If you let this season go, then it's going to be this Christian Wilkins all over again.
Yes.
So you're just saying, yeah, you let him go.
Roll the dice, baby.
You're rolling the dice, but as soon as I say Christian Wilkins, you just said yes. Like, all right, yeah, he's going to be gone. So
no. It's a similar situation, but I probably would have paid Christian Wilkins before I paid Tua, and I know the impact is way different and all that. But I can't give Tua that money right now. I just can't.
Well, I mean, the figures are really high, and I know it's good. Yeah, it's going to affect you. I mean, I'm in favor of signing him long term. I know what these figures are. These numbers are kind of like eye popping, and 4 quarterbacks right now are making plus $50+ million in average annual value, and that really eats up at you. And we also know the salaries are going to keep going up. So whichever quarterbacks get paid in the future seasons beyond that, they're going to be making even more than whatever Tua gets now. And so on and so forth. And the cap is going to keep going up so much more with the growing interest, even globally, in the NFL. So today's figures aren't going to be tomorrow's figures either. Like, already the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen contracts seem like so minimal compared to what's getting paid out now, when it's Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson also got paid. Those are the 4 that are ahead of a $50 million. So it's a big number, and it's going to affect how much you can work the franchise around him. But it's kind of just also, boy, if you're in such a win now mode, and then you're risking losing your quarterback that you have right now that's been a few years in this offense, it's going to be another rebuild if you go ahead and just let him slide on out. So it doesn't seem like it'd be ideal for now, and then it'd take a lot later to maybe end up seeing the benefit if you end up starting all over again with another quarterback.
Grandizer 12, welcome. Grandizer 12, yeah, we did have the Furones bonus. Grandizer 12 is asking for a double Furones bonus. This thing is blowing up here at the end of the show. Furones, what did I say before we came on the air? I wanted to limit this to 45 minutes. We are now at an hour 7, and questions are just pouring in here. All right, we'll do. Let's see. Well, let's see. Should we do one more here? What do we got here?
Yeah, you might need to save some of these for Dolphins Q&A.
I know. All right. So, all right. We'll end it on this. Ocean Breeze.
I'm
detail.
up for one more. I'm up for one more. I'm not getting paid by the hour here, Perk.
Let me wrap it up. Ocean Breeze Detail says, I'm with Furones. Tua has to get paid. How's that? We're going to end it on that. I'm Chris Perkins. That's David Furones. Thanks for listening to this overtime session. Really, we went overtime. We always appreciate it. We will talk to you. I don't know if we're talking next week. We'll see. We'll see. We will keep you advised on social. Thanks for it. You're watching Dolphins Deep Dive on sunsentinel.com.